how this is going to work is we're going to have one person speak at a time because these things like to get distracted easily.
What? This team? Never.
What? Distracted? Never heard of it.
Squirrel. What?
You guys proved my point well. So I'm going to open up with some intro of some things I read and understood from the book and the prologue, the first prologue chapter. And then we'll go around and talk about it, okay?
Okay.
So I like this chapter a lot, especially right now, because it kind of talks about him being in Shanghai and there being a lot going on in the States with the Pulse Club shooting and the death of the child at Disney World. And all of that was happening at once, and it was a very unique situation for what his normal everyday was, which is very much like what we're having right now, which is why it kind of hits home for me in a big way. One of the big quotes I got out of this was, sometimes even though you're in charge, you need to be aware that you might have nothing to add. And I thought that was a really good quote for all of us to know that, like, even when there's a lot going on, sometimes we can't help with anything, just like right now. I like that he talked about the 10 attributes of a leader. I want to go through those real quick, and then I'll give you guys the floor. But the first one was optimism, which was a pragmatic enthusiasm for what can be achieved. People are not energized or motivated by pessimists. Courage, which is risk taking, is vital. Fear of failure destroys creativity. The third one is focus, allocating time and resources to the projects of value. The fourth one is decisiveness. This means all decisions should be made in a timely way while doing our best to listen to all points of view. The fifth one is curiosity. The path to innovation begins with curiosity. The sixth one is fairness, which is about strong leadership embodies the fair and decent treatment of people. Judging too harshly generates fear and anxiety. Nothing works in an organization that has a culture of fear. Of course, we heard about this when we had our lead meeting. Thoughtfulness, gaining knowledge to make an informed opinion. The eighth one was authenticity. Be genuine, be honest, don't fake anything. Authenticity actually breeds respect. The ninth one was drive to perfection. This is a refusal to accept mediocrity. If you're in the business of making things, be in the business of making things great. And integrity. Nothing is more important. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. I think Ted has a quote that he likes to talk about with that, but that's what the way he phrases it. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And I think that's a very good way to move on to the next person. I guess we'll start with Doug. What did you take away from the book, Doug, or the prologue?
I'm the only one not putting a video up, but that's okay.
Why?
Yeah,
Sorry, I forgot y'all could hear me by just talking. My apologies.
no, you're good. Hello, by the way. By the way, guys, I am recording this, and I'm going to send it out to the team in an email for anybody who didn't get to participate.
Could you have told us that earlier so we could on some
Yeah, we all would have worn our name tags.
I can blur your face, Vanessa.
Oh my god.
I mean, there is a little.
Yeah, that would have been nice
right.
before I decided to come out looking like a raccoon.
I would.
We're still in our pajamas.
You guys all look wonderful. I want to say that.
You're saying that would have been
shirt and a
easy.
name tag.
I didn't know that before.
I know I look good, so yeah, thanks.
Jeez.
All right, Doug, what did you take away from the prologue?
I took a lot. I do like his the different points that he made about the the optimism and courage and stuff. But the one that I really liked was the courage about taking risks. I think that's one of the things I try to live by is taking risks, even when I'm at work.
Doug, is that toilet paper behind you?
Hey, Ted offered $20 a roll. Got a higher bid?
I offered him
I was looking at the map on his wall.
Heavy just went to 6 places and couldn't find any.
That's probably all the countries he's mailed them to.
Derailed. Okay.
Sorry.
Emily, what did you take away from that?
I really liked the prologue. I thought it was really interesting to see like a day in the life of Bob Iger. But there was one point that I really liked, and I highlighted it. You trust your people to do their jobs and focus your energies on some other pressing issue. I really liked that. Made me think of our team and how we all can trust each other to, you know, do our jobs and rely on each other for important things. But yeah, it also the line where he said, I'm trying to find it so I can read it verbatim. It was a happy day. It was also the saddest of my career. That was like, oof, heartstrings.
Yep.
So that's what I thought about the prologue. And then I don't know if we're talking about the first chapter yet, but
Not yet. We'll wait till next week on that, just because there's a
That's it.
lot in the prologue.
full stop.
Jessica, what about you?
I really liked Optimism Part 2. A quote that really stood out to me was, even in the face of difficult choices and less than ideal outcomes, an optimistic leader does not yield to pessimism. Simply put, people are not motivated or energized by pessimism. To me, optimism and kind of positivity is how I really try and live my life. So I really connected to that section. This was also a really good chapter in general, kind of facing crises. And through my school counseling program, we talked a lot about triage and how to handle intense situations. So he was talking about all of that, kind of brought back school counseling roots, which is kind of fun. It's been a while since I thought about that. So even though it was a really tough chapter and he was dealing with a lot of hard-hitting, sad moments in his career, it was also good to kind of remember different aspects of our lives that kind of dictate our leadership and what drives us. So I thought it was a really good chapter.
Tamara, what did you think?
You know, what really resonated with me is how, and I'm doing the audio version, but we try and teach of how to multiply ourselves. So here he was in this massive situation where, you know, he really had to multiply into the people who he surrounds himself with, and tapping George and tapping Bob Chapek and tapping his assistant of, you know, how do I get the information? How do I communicate out? I mean, I forgot that all of that was going on all at the same time. And God, I don't know how he handled it, because there's so many intense emotions involved with, here you've got this project that's taken you 6 years and a couple $2 billion. You're finally at the point of where you launch it. But at the same time, you've now got this major event going on in Orlando that's affecting your cast members, and then you've also got the death of a child. And the death is traumatic, but when it's a child, I think that magnifies it. So the fact that he was able to lead in such a manner that nobody knew. I mean, he was able to handle Shanghai, doing all the media, calling the family in Florida, leaning on Bob and George about Pulse, and reaching out to the cast members and what can we do for the cast members. That just, I mean, I've always been a fan of Bob Iger's because I've known him before he was CEO, and I had the pleasure of working in guest relations. But those kind of leaders you don't see very often. And those attributes of what he talks about, I mean, that's something I think we should make our mantra now, you know, of how we move forward. It really moved me. It was very moving, the prologue. I took from it.
All right, Vanessa, A.
So to be honest, I'm doing the audio version and I listened to it like a month ago, so bear with me. When it kind of hit home for me when he was talking about optimism and how important it is to lead with optimism, especially for me, because I'm not necessarily a pessimistic person, but I am pessimistic in my humor, and I think sometimes that doesn't quite translate to people. But yeah, it just made me think about like my own leadership and how to go about it going forward, especially in these kinds of times.
Haley, what did you think?
Well, one, Bob Iger is a human, so he has emotions. That's great. But I think something that really stood out when he was talking about all the attributes was integrity, because doing PR for school, all my professors have really kind of driven in doing everything with integrity when it comes to PR. That, and then when he talked about the relentlessness, pursuit of perfection, and then when he goes into that in the first chapter, I know we're not really talking about that right now, but how easy it is to just kind of have that like good enough mindset, but always strive for more. So.
Can I interrupt? Do you ever feel like we do that a lot because we do so much punting? Our leaders, throw things at us at the last minute, and we do enough to get by. Do you ever feel that way? Because that part kind of resonated with me as well.
Definitely.
How we could be better. Yeah.
Teresa, what did you think?
There were, first off, can I tell you, this is like the highlight of my day, seeing all your faces. There were the entire first section there, that prologue, I could hardly even catch a breath, just imagining everything that he was going through in, like a 72-hour period. There were three things in particular that kind of stood out for me. And I'm always thinking about emergency preparedness, because what scares me the most is being the leader on duty when something big happens. So I'm always like going over scenarios in my brain. And two of them, two points that he made. First, that the guy who, God, I forget his name, the guy who hit Pulse, that he was pacing in front of House of Blues at Disney World. They had footage of him at his last visit. That for me was a good reminder to see something, say something. We go to work every single day. It's kind of like Ted's orange cord, where you see the same things every day and you start to become desensitized, but realizing how important it is that when you do see something odd and you trust your gut to say something, because even if they just take a report of it, at least they can refer back to it. Kind of like merch alerts. If we walk into Castle Holiday Shop and there's 3 pegs that are missing merch, just that information alone is still valuable to report up, because it may be part of a bigger investigation. And then the second one reminded me of a situation that we had in Bibbidi, where a guest came in and stole I think it was a dress and some wings. It was that one that Ted went after, the Tinker Bell wings. And she kind of crumpled them up, and there were 2 cast members in there. But when I was talking to one of the cast members, she said, so-and-so and I were talking at the cash wrap when a guest came up and said that this other guest walked out of the shop with the merchandise. And I said, well, that's why you guys shouldn't be talking at the cash wrap. So again, it was that see something, say something. They'd become kind of desensitized, and were, doing their little personal conversations, where if it was a really bad situation, like, I don't know, let's just, for instance, if, some guest decided to grab a child out of a stroller, and if they got the information secondhand that those are vital seconds that were missing, that they could have done something. So being aware. And then the third thing that really struck me was 2 of his points on focus and decisiveness. He says it's imperative to communicate your priorities clearly and often, and to also, chronic indecision is not only inefficient, but counterproductive. And I think all of us deal with, so many things in one day, and very rarely just one thing at any one time, right? So you may be dealing with a guest concern when a cast member is coming up to you and telling you about something else that's happening. And you guys do an amazing job of dealing with many things at once. But it's, I think, helpful when the cast know, they have a clear direction of what your expectations are, and it will help them make decisions in the moment a little easier, which, at the end of the day will help all of us. So those were kind of the 3 things that really stuck out, besides just his entire story.
Vanessa Dominguez.
Hi. Okay, so the quote that had stuck with me was this, when he was talking towards the end of the prologue about you know, trusting in your coworkers and the people that you're working with. And for me, like, I always want to do everything, and you can't do everything. You have to have that confidence in people. And it's not saying that you didn't have it to begin with, but just that letting go and, you know, the teamwork part of it. And I don't know. Let's see. The part that I kind of with parallel with what I'm working with now or trying to figure out now was that was kind of back to back. But I did appreciate the part that he was talking about being decisive and what Teresa was saying in being direct in the direction that you want to go in and everything that like that, because you may have an idea and you may, like for me, I ramble a lot. So being direct is something I need to work on. And it was nice to hear, like, you know, that is exactly what you want to do. And he had that direction. And even through all the things he was going through at that time, he still had that direction and still made sure that, like, the family knew he cared and he wanted that to get across. And I appreciated that.
Yeah, those are all excellent points. Lauren, what did you take away from it?
Yeah. Sorry, just having my coffee. Well, first of all, really glad to see all of you guys. This is like really making my day. My past 2 weeks actually. But
Yeah.
I really liked this prologue, and it's like I hate to admit it, but for the past 2 weeks, all I have kept thinking about is my last interaction as a lead, which was that day that we found out that we were getting shut down. Because I was really panicked because I was doing my first Hatter shift and trying to learn all of that while the torrential rain. And then we had our meeting where where Teresa let us know that our park was going to be shutting down. And so to me, I was very overwhelmed. And I kind of lost myself there in forgetting that I need to compartmentalize. And so the fact that Bob Iger mentioned that, okay, like in everything you do, like what people see on the outside so often doesn't reflect what's happening on the inside. And when he said, as the week described above makes all too clear, there are also always crises and failures for which you can never be fully prepared. And I know that his situation with the alligator incident and the pulse shooting, those are completely like a different scale than us shutting down. But I think the hardest lesson that I have to remember and to learn is that like, oh, there's always something next. And it kind of like, I don't know, I just watched Frozen 2 for like the umpteenth time. But then it just reminds me of like when Anna was like, okay, you just need to do the next right thing. And I don't know, that's what struck me the most, because that's all I've been thinking about the past 2 weeks was like, okay, how do I maintain professionalism? How do I get the job done, but also show empathy? Like, you just do the next right thing. And I think that like it's unbelievable that even Bob Iger, who seems like he has it all figured out and together, like still has his moments where he doesn't, like, he needs to compartmentalize too and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I'm sure each and every one of us can relate to that with you, Lauren. Judy.
I can't relate to the Frozen 2 thing.
What, you don't like Arendelle Aqua?
No, Arendelle Aqua.
No.
Hello, Nicole.
So there's a lot for this prologue in itself. You guys keep mentioning Pulse and the alligators incident, but he also talked about the Vegas shooting, which happened, I guess, around the same time. So it was a lot that happened that he had to compartmentalize. But the thing that kind of surprised me, because he is a CEO, was his first reaction was the empathy. He immediately thought of the family because he could put himself there. You know, he's a father. He mentioned several times he's a father and he's a grandfather. So he couldn't quite understand, but he could imagine how painful that could be. And also he worried about Pulse. This happened in Florida. We have cast members there. There's the possibility that we did have cast members that were affected by that situation. And again, his first thought when he heard about the Vegas shooting was, we have cast members that may have attended there. And he thought of his cast members, despite being that CEO. He's like at the very top, but he still thought, my cast members. Like, how is this going to affect my cast members directly or indirectly? And what can I do to help them in this situation? And also the attributes, my favorites are the being genuine and the integrity. And the one that makes me uncomfortable is the decisiveness, because like we all do, I have a tendency to be indecisive, and I know I need to work on that. Shush, Vanessa. But yes, I need to work on the decisiveness. So pretty good, very good prologue.
Oh, amazing. Ted, what did you think of the first chapter, or the prologue?
I think he may have just left.
He may, or he's muted anyway.
He's muted.
No.
He's muted.
Hi there.
There he is.
I don't know if I can talk, guys. It's way too emotional.
Yes.
Well, Doug has a whole bunch of toilet paper if you need to use it.
But I will tell you this: when I was in the train accident, and Bob Iger made it his way to send me a personal note, and that was pretty amazing. He sent a really nice note just to let me know that he was thinking of me and my fam, and he named Laura and my daughter, and I said anything that we needed. From there on, he always made a little pilgrimage to come to, when I came back to work about a year later, to come and see me. But one of the things that I do know about Bob, just personally, his wife would come in with his kids. He had two young boys, and his wife was a newscaster for years, and just very, very down to earth. But the one thing that I did really admire about what I read so far is when he says about strength, that if you see something and you need to, stand up and recognize it, you can't look the other way. You have to own it and move forward for whatever it is. I don't have it. I don't have the exact quote, Pat. You had read it in the very beginning, but I admire his strength. And if you could imagine, we as a company, and I hate to be political about it, but if we as a world ran like we run our company, how much better we would be as a company. Disney is such a wonderful company to work for because of our leaders, and you're all leaders as well. And we collaborate together. We own each other's hurt. We own each other's happiness.
Oh, we love you, Ted.
Okay, Ted. But that's what's so inspiring about this, Ted, is that you have that feeling because you know that you have leadership that cares.
Exactly.
From the top down.
And you guys make it all happen, and you make it easier. We have a wonderful leader, Teresa. You know how we all feel about you, but you have that level head that no matter what it is, you're as strong as steel. You are our Wonder Woman.
You are sweet. I'm inspired by you guys.
Look at that.
But this is great because it takes leaders to make leaders. And one thing I always say is inspect what you expect. And I think what I got out of Bob's thing is, listen, when he talked about teamwork, if you know your team's going to follow through on something, and you want to make sure that it's going to give you, they're going to deliver what you want to deliver or what the right thing is deliver. You got to go back and expect it. You want to inspect to make sure they're on the right track. You can't just assume that they're going to think like you or understand the expectations were what you set. You got to go back and check on them all the time. And that's where I like to say, like Teresa, you do that very well. I know with me and within the team, you set the expectation, you follow up, and then you go back and make sure it's there. And that's what we need to do more consistent as a team and within our cast. We can't assume that they know. Sometimes they do know, but now that's when we have to hold the accountability. But there's a way to do it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that's what our role is. So that's what I got out of it.
Thank you so much, Chad. That was great. Laura, I know you don't have a video there, but do you have something to share about the prologue?
Oh yeah, I apologize for being late. I literally was trying to time my workout to come join you all, and I was a little slower than I expected. So that's why I don't have a video, because I am sweaty and gross, and I promise I'll have a video next week.
You're great. No, just go ahead, and we'd love to hear from you anyway.
But the thing that really hit me with the prologue actually was the fact that he got the news of several of these big horrific events in front of crowds of people. And that he was able to keep his control and keep his emotions in check in a way that nobody around him knew what was going on. And that is something that I know I personally struggle with as a leader. If I get bad news, I usually need a moment to process before I can put on that brave face and go talk to our cast or go talk to our guests. So the fact that he was told on a tour with investors and with important people that something horrible had happened, and he was able to keep that straight face and go on outwardly as if nothing had happened, that really kind of struck me when I was listening to the prologue. The other part that he mentioned that I really kind of hit me as far as my leadership journey was when he was talking to the parents of that poor little boy, and he was talking about the fact that everything he said he had to put through a legal filter. Because sometimes, especially because we build those relationships with our cast, and a lot of times when we build those relationships just in general in our leadership lives, it's hard to remember that everything we say has to have that filter on it. And that's something that you don't want to let stifle your creativity, you don't want it to let stifle your personality, but it is something that even us down at the lead level, at the manager level, have to be aware of, is that everything we say has that big impact that can be taken in the worst case scenario all the way up to like a legal level. So having him talk about that and see that he even has to think about that in every single conversation, that really kind of struck me that there's a reason that sometimes CEOs and leaders come across as cold or harsh, and it's really just because they're having to think about that on that level. And that as somebody who met Bob Iger and was sort of like, man, he's sort of stiff, I now see why. I see that there are those filters you have to put on if you're out and about in that kind of conversation.
You know, I definitely I've had to learn that myself, as many of you that knew me before I was a manager know.
Hey.
So thank you for that, Laura. Charlie, I think I see you there.
Hey guys, can we mute it all and only have the one speaker on? Can we self-mute?
Okay, so Nicole, you're going to go next. So we'll have everybody but Nicole mute if we can.
Hey guys, can we self-mute so we can listen to Nicole? Someone's washing dishes.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I haven't had time to read the book, but I really wanted to join in and listen on to your guys' thoughts and process of everything that's going on with what your guys' thoughts were on the chapter. And I do apologize. I will catch up with you guys next week because I've been really busy studying for exams. Sorry. But so far, I really like what Laura has said about how we really do have to keep in mind what we say to each and every one, no matter what. If I've become really close friends with a lot of people, and I know now that I am a leader, I have to keep in mind that I can't tell everyone everything that's going on. And I know a lot of people want to know what's going on. So it's going to be a new learning curve to accomplish that. And I do like what Ted said about how we are a community and we are a family, and I really enjoyed that as well. Sorry, I don't have that to say, guys, but I really wanted to listen in on everyone else's perspective of it, even though I didn't get to read it.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine, Nicole. Did the code I gave you for the audio?
I actually haven't been able to try it, but I will try it after this.
No problem. It's a really good worth it. And then Charlie, did you have anything you wanted to add in?
I've kind of been listening as I was trying to set up my account, and I think everybody's on the right page. And as long as really think about applying some of the things that you learn, and think about what you do in your regular day, it'll start making sense even more. And you kind of have to look at situations that you've been in and think, okay, did I do it right, or how can I put it? Is it something that I already do automatically, right? Sometimes you do things without even thinking because it's just how you normally are, but hearing it again kind of reinforces your behavior, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. So guys, you're more than welcome to take some time to talk with each other. We're on this format now. For now, I think we're done. We're going to just read chapter 1 for next week. We'll meet around the same time at noon. I'll probably go on at around 11:30 again, just so everybody can get established and set up. Now that we have more of a better format for this, we can do this every week if you guys want to.
This is great, guys. Thank you. Patrick, thank you so much for leading this on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
This is awesome, Patrick.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Patrick.
And if you don't have to do video, Laura, we appreciate it. Anything there.
Yay, being healthy.
Can I say one quick thing?
Absolutely.
I'm really touched by how vulnerable you guys are and sharing your thoughts, and I learned a little bit about each one of you today, and I just really appreciate that. It says a lot that you guys took the time to sign in, and Charlie, this is brilliant. We don't always get this opportunity to just kind of talk about, what's going on inside our heads and our hearts. So thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everyone. Take time to talk now if you want.
Okay.
Okay, one important question.
Yes.
Are you recording next week too?
I'm gonna try to record every week just because
Yeah,
I
this
want
is an important
to send it out in an email fashion to everybody. So that way you can get caught up easily by just watching a couple of half-an-hour videos if you want.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop recording now, though.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Okay. Here's